The case for Bijan Robinson at 12 for the Houston Texans. It's kind of wild, isn't it, that you have to make a case for perhaps the best player in the draft at 12 that plays a position that, despite being minimized, can make the largest impact on your team, and having multiple guys that play this position doesn't necessarily mean that they're not on the field at the same time, or that they're not able to impact the game at a high level. It's kind of a wild debate. It's an appropriate debate. Um, it's a debate in which I would say the majority sides on not drafting a running back at 12. But I think it's something we should discuss here in the locker room. Number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610. When we have this debate, and I'll just pull back the curtain, I'm a Jackson Smith and Jigba guy. I think that's the one guy I want the Texans to walk out of this draft with. I think he is the best wide receiver in this draft. If he's there at 12, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Hell, if you're at 12 and you can trade up to 10 with Philadelphia, I've laid out the history of that. We might get a little bit more into that a little bit later on, but I'm a Jackson Smith and Jigba guy. I'm not a just get a receiver guy. I'm not a you need to get this guy. I'm a give me a specific name guy. If you're going to say pass on Bijan Robinson, let's talk about the player, not the position, because that's not how the draft works. The draft doesn't work where you just say, I want an awesome receiver, and you turn in the card and you get an awesome receiver. Let's talk about the player, not the position, because the running back position has been extremely minimized at almost a laughable at almost like a laughable point, to where I think it's going to start shifting to where drafting running backs early might become a little bit more common, especially when you're talking about Bijan Robinson. Now, if you're going to tell me that Bijan Robinson is not a Christian McCaffrey type player, and you think he's average, then so be it. Or you think he's a second round guy, so be it. But if he is Christian McCaffrey, and let's say that you knew for a fact that he was Christian McCaffrey, when would Christian McCaffrey go in this draft? Like, what is Christian McCaffrey worth? Because there's a prime example from this past season of just how disrespected running backs are. And Christian McCaffrey is part of that example. The San Francisco 49ers last year, they ended up going to the NFC Championship game. And really, it seems like all you hear about when you talk about San Francisco is, wow, that Kyle Shanahan's a really smart guy. He's a genius. He can get the most out of his quarterback. He can get Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy and still go to an NFC Championship game and nearly make the Super Bowl. That's true, but why in the hell was Brock Purdy able to do what he did? It might have something to do with the fact that they traded half of a draft for Christian McCaffrey. You think it maybe had a little bit something to do with the fact that, despite the fact they had viable running options, that they were willing to trade a second, third, fourth, and fifth round pick for Christian McCaffrey? Do you think it might have had something to do with the fact that Christian McCaffrey started 10 games in the regular season and they went 10-0? And he started 3 games in the postseason and they went 2-1. They were 10-0 in the regular season when Christian McCaffrey started. They were 3-4 in games in which he didn't start. You think that might have had something to do with it? I would say yes. If they don't trade for Christian McCaffrey, they don't get as far as they did. But because the running back position is so frowned upon, and by the way, I'm not a proponent of giving running backs second contracts. I think you draft them the second that they get into the league. And if they don't get to that second contract, it's fine. But the San Francisco 49ers traded all that for Christian McCaffrey, and they took on that contract. So running backs are so disrespected that even though Christian McCaffrey, in his 10 games, 10 starts, he had 708 yards rushing, 440 receiving, and 10 touchdowns. Overall, he had 1,210 yards in the 11 games he played. Christian McCaffrey is not the reason we talk about the San Francisco 49ers doing what they did last year. We talk about Brock Purdy and Mr. Irrelevant and all that. Do you think Brock Purdy would have been able to do what he did last year without Christian McCaffrey? No, I don't think so. Michael Dugar of The Athletic, I thought he did a really good job of laying out just running backs and their value when they're immediately picked. And this isn't to say that you can't find a running back a little bit later on, but when you can get a one of one like a Christian McCaffrey, or like what many believe Bijan Robinson is, and if you don't think he's that, then ignore the discussion. But let's talk about the player and not the position. Here was Dugar of The Athletic. He was on with Gallant, the Gallant Says podcast a few years ago, and I thought this was just really well said by Dugar.
When you draft them, they're in their prime. The minute Roger Goodell says, with the whatever pick, Alvin Kamara, boom, prime. He is prime, peak physical state. He's the best value he'll ever be to the team in terms of finances. Right there, boom. No other position is like that.
Right.
Not linemen, not corner. Corners can be fine for a very long time. Their prime, Shaquille Griffin's prime could be now. He's 25. There's just all of these reasons not to spend big because of the value over replacement.
And I think that's extremely well said by Dugar, and that's why, like, when you get a Bijan Robinson, if it's 3-4 years of Bijan Robinson, is that more valuable than what you can get out of another position? Like, one of the things that you hear the most about running backs is they don't last very long. What percentage of rookies get to their second contract? Half? Less than half? So why are we thinking about the second contract when it comes to a running back? Look at the receivers taken in Christian McCaffrey's draft. And this is selective statistics, because I'm sure you can give me examples of when this wasn't the case. But the wide receivers that went in Christian McCaffrey's draft were Mike Williams, Corey Davis, and John Ross. You could make a case that just the duration of Christian McCaffrey's rookie contract is going to be better than the careers of two of those guys. Maybe not Mike Williams, probably not. So there's always like examples. And anytime a running back gets drafted, it's about the position and not the player. Kansas City drafts Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Man, you shouldn't have done that. What if it had been Jonathan Taylor? Well, you found, Alvin Kamara in the third round. You found this guy there. Well, maybe they should have been drafted in the first. But there's a lot more opportunity to get running backs. And for whatever reason, it just gets minimized. Now, this is the other point. And look, I don't disagree with this. It's a discussion about whether the running back is worth it at 12. I don't even know if the Texans will have a chance to get him at 12. So it might be a moot point. But Damien Pierce last year, he was on track to having over 1,000 yards, and the Texans, I think, were top 10 in rushing when Damien Pierce was toting the rock. Is that a case for or a case against? Because Damien Pierce at Florida, he never went the entire duration of a season carrying a heavy load successfully. Now, a lot of that was Dan Mullen's fault. He only had double-digit carries 7 times, so not necessarily his fault. And last year, he wore down a little bit. I believe in Damien Pierce. I like Damien Pierce. But even if Damien Pierce is capable, does he not benefit from Bijan Robinson coming in? You can play those guys on the field at the same time. You can still give Damien Pierce the rock 15, 16 times a game, and he can actually be your closer. You can use both those guys. You can get Bijan in the slot, something that they failed to do at Texas. So Damien Pierce could actually benefit from this. Running back isn't like quarterback, where there's not enough balls to go around and the impact. You could put Bijan Robinson in motion and hand the ball to Damien Pierce, and you're doing yourself a service. So I actually think Damien Pierce, the example I like to use is Marion Barber with the Dallas Cowboys. When he was a closer, I think he led the league in touchdowns one year, and he was awesome. But then all of a sudden they said, you know what, we're going to make Marion Barber an every down back. He ended up wearing down. I think Damien Pierce would benefit from Bijan Robinson. Furthermore, I think it's healthy to ask if Damien Pierce, because we haven't seen it the last 5 years, if he's capable of being a guy that can do it over the course of an entire year. So I actually think Damien Pierce benefits from that, because you can use multiple running backs. Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, I think they both made the Pro Bowl the same year. If you have the right offensive coordinator, you have the right offensive mind. We had an example of where Mark Ingram was a first-round pick. Alvin Kamara, you got him in the third. You mesh those guys together. I think they both made the Pro Bowl the exact same year. So you can have multiple running backs. You also, another case for Bijan Robinson here in the locker room is you have extra picks. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they had extra picks when they took Travis Etienne. When you have extra picks, you can swing for the fences. You can be willing to take on maybe something that's considered a luxury. It's a possibility. Jacksonville did it. Jacksonville had a 1,000-yard rusher. He had a better rookie season than Dameon Pierce did. He being James Robinson. Is Dameon Pierce better than James Robinson? Some would say yes. I would probably think so, but James Robinson was 5th in the league in rushing, I believe, his rookie year. And they still decided that despite that, they were going to take, because they had an extra draft pick, they were going to take Travis Etienne. Etienne ended up getting hurt, but last year he was a big reason why they won the division. As a matter of fact, I don't think they win the division if they don't draft him in that first round. He was a big part of what they needed, and they adjusted because he was there, and that was the pick they made. It's also about adjustments. Like if the Texans like a corner, if the Texans like a receiver and it's not there, we've seen Caserio adjust. They decided to bring in Dalton Schultz once the market spoke. If the draft speaks to you and you have that chance, might be something that you decide to do. This is the number one argument against. And if you disagree, just put it in the comments. I love the interaction at Landry Locker on Twitter, Odyssey app as well, in the Loop Sports Radio 610. Well, they have all these needs. Like the Texans have all these needs. We got so many needs. We don't need to address running back. Okay. So you don't need to address a position that can be the most impactful position. You don't need to address getting the best player in the draft. You have more needs. So now you have to fill a list. Doesn't it make more sense to just stockpile talent when you have more needs? I don't like the drafting for need thing. Like if this were the 2019, 2018 Texans where we knew that where they only had 2 needs, like they needed a corner and they needed an offensive lineman, then you can make a case that they just draft the corner or the offensive lineman. But if you have more needs, like you're not going to fix your team in 1 year. And the chances are in a crapshoot like the draft, you can take a wide receiver if the top guy's not there. And if you're settling, chances are after his rookie deal's up, he's going to be gone anyways. And we're going to be looking back at how bad of a pick it was. The Texans at this point, they're not going to solve all their problems. So they don't need to just say, okay, we got to fill this and then we're going to dress. No, get an elite running back room. Get one of the best running back rooms in football where you have a strength that other teams look to and say, man, you know what? That's one of the best running back rooms in the league. They got 2 guys that could maybe be Pro Bowl running backs. How's Bobby Slowick going to use them? Become elite at something instead of just trying to check some boxes. You got the extra picks for a reason. So more needs. I actually think that can be a counter argument because you're not going to fix your team in one draft. Bijan Robinson's not going to be on your team for 1 year. Again, you don't just say we need an awesome edge guy and turn in the card. There might not be awesome edge guys. There might not be awesome corners. There's a guy who most people, if you don't, then again, you're not even considering this. Most people consider to be one of the best players in the draft. Best player in the draft at pick 12. So that's the case for Bijan Robinson. Make it about the player, not the position. Focus on the player. And if you're going to say, the other thing is, if you're going to say don't take Bijan Robinson, give me a name. Let's not just say it's about the running back, because you can make a case drafting running backs and drafting elite running backs and drafting the best player in the draft at 12 might actually be the smart play. So give me a player. Who are you looking for at 12? Do you have the Jalen Carter pipe dream? Are you Smith and Jigba? Are you Quentin Johnston? Are you Joey Porter? Are you Witherspoon? Are you Gonzalez? Where are you at? Zay Flowers getting a little bit of momentum, a little bit of love. Who you like at 12? Let's not say don't draft a running back. Give me a name. Cabin fever continues. The draft is close. Hope everyone's having a happy Easter. That's the case for Bijan Robinson. Although I've been on this running back thing for a while. I wanted them to take a running back back in 2020. They ended up going with a need, Ross Blacklock. How'd that work out? Exceptions to everything, though. Again, selective information to back up your point. I'm guilty of it too. No matter what happens, no matter what the Texans take, no matter whether it's a running back, no matter whether it's not, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we are all in this together. Appreciate you for listening. Appreciate you for watching. Talk to you later.